Thank you for inviting me to present today at Biotech and Money convention here in London. Quantum Genomics is a French biotech company labeled Pass French Tech by the French government. I mean, hyper-growth company according to the French government, and we try to achieve what our government is waiting for us. But first of all, we are dedicated to patients. We plan to develop first-in-class cardiovascular drugs in order to treat, of course, you have the usual disclaimer, as mentioned previously. We plan to treat patients with complicated to treat hypertension, but also chronic heart failure. We have an experienced management team and very complementary. And of course, a very international scientific and clinical advisory board with physicians and researchers in the US, in Europe, and in Japan, covering the main market for those diseases. The highlights, we are developing this novel therapeutic class to treat cardiovascular disease. Brain aminopeptidase, BAPI, provide both anti-hypertensive and cardioprotection effect. The discovery comes from Inserm, and I was CEO of Inserm Transfer, which is a subsidiary of Inserm, dedicated to tech transfer, large project management, and also seed funding. And I met with Catherine Lorenz-Cortez, I think 14 years ago. We've discussed this pathway, the renin-angiotensin system located at brain level, involved in the regulation of blood pressure, and we have decided 11 years ago to launch a startup, Quantum Genomics, in order to target at brain level this pathway and to treat both hypertension and chronic heart failure, two highly unmet medical needs. We have two clinical stage programs, QGC01. We've just announced a positive result of our phase 2A, or pilot study, in June 2017 at the European Society of Hypertension Congress. And we are just starting New Hope study. It's a phase 2 that is taking place in the US. We received the clearance of the FDA, and we are just launching the study. And the second program, the second clinical stage program, QGC101, which is a multicentric pan-European study taking place in 8 countries, even in Great Britain, to treat patients with class 2 or class 3 heart failure, chronic heart failure with altered ejection fraction. Of course, this is supported by a broad intellectual property. And on the next slide, you will see our key upcoming milestones. We have already in 2017 announced the result of our phase 2A, the pilot study we did on moderate hypertensive patients. And we've received the FDA clearance of our IND to start the New Hope study. We name it New Hope because hopefully we have something new to offer to patients suffering from high blood pressure. And we plan to recruit by the end of this year the first patient for this US trial. 250 patients will be enrolled in this trial. We plan to complete the recruitment by next year, by the end of next year, and to have the result by mid-2019. From the heart failure program point of view, we plan to complete the recruitment of patients by this year end, and to have the result by mid-2018, and then initiate a phase 2B. I'm quite sure you know about the data, the market data when it comes to patients. I mentioned at the beginning, those two diseases are huge unmet medical needs. When one asks me what is the unmet medical need, I say for sure, when you look at the high blood pressure market, and when you look at the figure, 9.4 million people dying every year due to the complication of high blood pressure, this is an unmet medical need. Despite a lot of different classes of drugs, there are still patients that are not well controlled, that are uncontrolled, resistant to those drugs, and that die every year. We name it the silent killer. And heart failure, it's a bit different, but it's also a huge medical need. That there are 23 million patients suffering from heart failure worldwide, and then 50% of those patients will die within 5 years. So we desperately need new class of drug for those two indications. And that's from the patient point of view. From the pharmaceutical industry point of view, we need also to find innovative therapies. Most of the big pharmaceutical companies that are on this slide add blockbusters in their portfolio. So their main drugs were sold at more than 1 billion a year, but those drugs are facing the generic industry now. So those companies are seeking for innovation. So there is a need for patients, but there is also a need for the pharmaceutical industry to find new drugs to treat both high blood pressure and also heart failure. And we at Quantum Genomics are developing this new approach, this brand new approach, which is to target at brain level a pathway that is involved in the regulation of blood pressure, discovered by Catherine Lorenz-Cortez, who is a neurobiologist, researcher, director of the Central Neuropeptide and Cardiovascular Hydroregulation Research Team in the Collège de France, which is one of the most prestigious research centers in Paris. Catherine received the Prix Galien for this discovery for category research in France. And she has demonstrated that you can treat high blood pressure by inhibiting the conversion of angiotensin II into angiotensin III. The enzyme that is responsible of this conversion is aminopeptidase. So we have an inhibitor of aminopeptidase that goes through the brain-blood barrier and prevents the conversion of angiotensin II into angiotensin III. There you have a triple mechanism of action with one single drug. You target the brain, and by targeting the brain, you're acting on the kidney, on vessels, on the heart as well, through 3 different cascades. You're acting on the decrease of vasopressin release, the decrease of the sympathetic nerve activity, but also on the improvement of the baroreflex. We have developed a pipeline of 4 research programs with this innovation. I already mentioned the 2 clinical stage programs, QGC01 and QGC101, but we are also developing a combination approach using our drug, the brain aminopeptidase inhibitor, combined with an ACE inhibitor, such as enalapril, for instance, that is targeting the renin-angiotensin system at peripheral level. And we have demonstrated that there is a synergistic effect. We have also filed a patent about this synergy of action. And we are on preclinical stage with this combination. But we have also developed other combination approach with herbs, for instance. And we have launched a common laboratory within CERN dedicated to this target, the aminopeptidase, to find best-in-class treatment, to optimize the treatment of hypertension as monotherapy and to deal with the life cycle management of our compound. And QGC006, that is at early stage, is 10 times more potent in vitro than QGC001. So I mentioned the fact that there are 9.4 million people dying every year due to complications of high blood pressure. Mainly those patients are those who are not well controlled, poorly controlled, or even resistant to existing drugs. There is a specific population of patients that is named low renin, high vasopressin patients that is not well controlled by ACE inhibitor or ARBs, and that is mostly uncontrolled by existing drugs. This population of patients represents 30% of the overall population of patients. This profile is overexpressed in elderly people, in Asian, in African American, and in Hispanic population. And that's the patient we plan to treat with the New Hope study. In phase 1 and phase 2 studies, we have treated 129 subjects with our drug. We have recruited 159 subjects in those trials. Basically, the product, there is an overall safety and tolerability of our product, of our drug, and we had positive signals in the pilot study in phase 2A. And most importantly, we have seen that the higher is the baseline of blood pressure, the higher is the effect. And as mentioned previously, what we plan to do is to treat patients that are of higher risk, with a higher level, more severe hypertension. And when one has more than 148 millimeters of mercury, our product is very efficient. The baseline of the New Hope study will be 145 millimeters. And as I mentioned, we received the pre-Gallium startup in late October. So you know the Gallium Foundation have launched this pre-Gallium startup for the biotech companies. We received this pre-Gallium for the innovative design of this study. We are initiating this New Hope study. We are evaluating our product in overweight patients of multiple ethnic origins. Those patients are more likely to suffer from salt-dependent hypertension, which is also known as low-renin vasopressin patients. 250 patients in 25 clinical centers with primary hypertension, overweight or obese, with a large proportion of African American and Hispanic, that is quite a challenge. That you know in the US, in the statistic, approximately 7% of African American participating to clinical trials. And of course, we will look at the primary endpoint, which is the change from baseline to week 8 in systolic blood pressure. So that is the design of this study that have been awarded. It's an open label study. We won't test against placebo for this kind of patient. It would be too dangerous to use placebo treatment for 2 months. So we've discussed with the FDA, and there's no placebo effect when you take when you measure the blood pressure using the sprint-like method, which is described in the sprint study. We are testing a protocol of treatment. So we start like in a normal life with a running period, of course, but then we are using our product at 250 milligrams BID. Then the physician may increase the dosage to 500 milligrams after 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, you can add a diuretic, an hydrochlorothiazide, which is mostly the product that is used for those patients. At the end of the study, we will have 3 arms with patients with single dosage, twice the dosage, and our product plus an hydrochlorothiazide. And then it will open the path for the development of phase 3 for patients with resistant hypertension. What we know about our product is we do not have an hypotensive drug, we have an anti-hypertensive drug, which is decreasing the blood pressure in essential hypertension, like in SHR rat or in the phase 2A, the pilot study we did. But more likely, we have a huge decrease in the DOCA salt rat, which is a mimetic of the salt-dependent hypertension. And that's what we plan to demonstrate with New Hope, that we will have a larger decrease in patients that are low-renin, high vasopressin patients. We are also developing the phase 2A study on congestive heart failure. It's 75 patients with chronic heart failure with altered cardiac ejection fraction in 15 university hospitals across 8 European countries. And we plan to complete and have the result of this study by mid-2018. What we want to look in this study is if the product is well tolerated in those patients that are not in very good shape, I would say, and if the product has some kind of efficacy. I won't go into the financial and the shareholding structure. You can find it on our website. I just want to insist on our strategy. Our goal is to build an alliance with a middle or big pharmaceutical company in order to finance the phase 3 and to make it to market with this new class of drug. What we want to do is to have the product as soon as possible available for patients suffering from those conditions. Thank you very much.